Hey guys, so I just wanted to go over that first page of our narrative writing guide with you. Again, I didn't really think it was necessary to do a whole PowerPoint presentation where you take notes on narrative writing, just because I know that you covered this in your class last year as 7th grade, so I think a quick video review will be sufficient. Personal narratives, so I'm going to go ahead and start going over the narrative writing guide, that first page. Personal narratives are about personal experiences. They allow readers to share an author's excitement, sadness, or happiness about a time in the author's life, and personal narratives focus on one event and give insight into the author's life. So the raft, the role, audience, format, and topic for narrative writing, I'm going to go over those with you, and I will type them in, so if you can't hear me, you can see it. The role for you, your role in narrative writing, is to be yourself. It's all about a personal experience that you've had, what you learned from that personal experience, and being so descriptive that the reader of that feels something. They feel like they were there with you in that experience. The audience is obviously your teacher and your classmates. You will be sharing your personal narratives in your small groups. So make sure that the experience that you decide to write about is one that you don't mind sharing with your classmates. The format of this essay is a personal narrative. So it's still academic writing. You'll break it down into a beginning, middle, and end in multi-paragraphs. But it's personal, so it doesn't have to have that research aspect of some essays. You don't have to find outside information because it's all based on your own personal experiences. And the topic of this essay is going to be an experience that taught you something. The example that I used in class today might be, hopefully none of you are driving yet, but an experience that taught you something could be like if you were driving and you ran out of gas. And what did you learn from that experience? You would describe what happened, making the reader feel like they were actually there with you. And then how did you grow or learn from that experience? So the raft for this essay, the role, audience, format, and topic is now completed for you to fill out as well in your guide. Your goal for the next 2 weeks, your goal is to write a personal narrative about an interesting personal experience that taught you something. So if you're a visual learner like me, maybe writing out this goal on a sheet of paper that you can see when you sit in language arts class for the next 2 weeks will help you stay on task with what our end goal is when we finish these essays. So your end goal is to write a personal narrative about an interesting personal experience that taught you something. And then lastly, on this first page of our writing guide, we have some elements of narrative writing. The first one is your ideas. So you should share the most important ideas and details to make the reader want to know what happens next. So if the information that you're writing is kind of off topic, you want to leave that out of the personal narrative. The ideas that you write about should be important and should be really descriptive so that I want to keep reading more. So I'll type that in for you. For the organization, you should put the events in logical order. So you wouldn't start with what happens at the middle of a story and then go back to the beginning and then finish with the end. You want them to be in chronological order for what happened during that event. For your voice, you're using your own personal first-person voice and writing style. So again, this isn't a super formal research essay where you would have to use third person and you wouldn't use slang. While it still should be a little bit formal, you wouldn't swear or use too much slang. But obviously this is your personal experience, so your voice should be, like your voice when you're writing should be like the voice that you use when you're talking. Also, personal narratives include dialogue. So when you're using that slang, or if, for example, in your experience you were having a conversation with someone and you were talking in a specific way, that's what you would put in your quotation marks for your dialogue, since personal narratives do include dialogue. For word choice, you should include words that express how you feel about the situation. The point of personal narratives is that they really play on the emotions. The emotions are key to a personal narrative because it helps the reader connect with that experience for you. So again, make sure that you're including words that express how you feel about the experience that you've chosen to write about, because personal narratives highlight emotions. For sentence fluency, you should create style in your writing by writing original sentences in a variety of lengths. So, unlike a small children's book, it wouldn't say, I went to the park, I played ball, I watched birds. That's not sentence fluency. There's no deviation from those simple sentences, and yours needs to have more complex sentences, more descriptive language. So just make sure that you're creating a style in your writing by varying your sentence lengths and using appropriate vocabulary so that the essay really just flows nicely. And then lastly, conventions. It's on every rubric that I've ever created or used for essays. It's so important. Again, even though this might not be as formal as a research paper, it's so important to use proper spelling, proper punctuation, and mechanics. So make sure that you are using correct spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and grammar. The perks of being on online learning and the fact that we're typing these is that your handwriting's not going to be an issue. But if you were writing your essay on paper to turn in by hand, then conventions would also include appropriate handwriting so that it's easy to read. So this is your first page, your review on narrative writing and your goal and the elements of narrative writing. So while we are working on this activity for the next 2 weeks, just make sure you know that you refer back to this, refer back to the rubric, refer back to the classroom videos, all of these resources that are put in place to help you with these assignments. So if you don't have any questions, have a wonderful day.